Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa sallam. We're starting from verse number 13. Alhamdulillah, we're able to get together once again. Session number 3 for Juz 29. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وأسروا قولكم أو اجهروا به إنه عليم بذات الصدور ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير. Whether you speak secretly or openly, he surely knows what is hidden in your breast. What is hidden in the breast. And the next one, how could he not know his own creation, for he alone is the most subtle, the all-aware. So really beautiful verses here that talks about, the first one is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything and anything, whether it's open, whether it's secret, whether it's public, whether it has happened, whether it is to be happening, and so on and so forth. And this really empowers us if we utilize it. So I'd like to ask you, imagine if you were to be cautious of that Allah is all aware, how would your life be? How can you feel more powerful and more empowered by being aware and conscious of the fact that Allah is all aware? Okay, so just think about anything, any situation, any event, any life event that may be troublesome, that may be bothering us, to remember that, look, Allah knows it. It's not something that has suddenly or randomly happened. It's in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah knows how it happened, why it happened, what is to come out of it. You'll feel much more secure and content knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has it all planned out and everything is in the control of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So you can take it in many, many different directions. So that's events that happen to you. Another thing is, when you are plotting or when you are planning to do some good deeds, you are talking about good intentions to do some good things, and perhaps you're not able to do it. Perhaps you put in a lot of effort, but you're not able to do it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is judging you, rewarding you, and noticing your efforts, not necessarily the results. Obviously, in the worldly sense, it's all about impact. It's like, what are you bringing to the table? What are the results? What's the impact? And so on and so forth. However, with Allah, He sees everything throughout. What's happening, what's going on, what you're thinking, what you're planning. And same thing, if you are planning, may Allah protect us, to do the wrong things, to harm, to cause harm, to transgress, then Allah also knows that. Or if the enemies, people who don't like you or like your community or like your religion, they are doing that, then Allah is also aware of that. So many, many different angles that you can take it forward, including our intentions. Why are we doing what we are doing? What's the intention behind it? Are we seeking approval and validation and praise from people, or are we doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It really encompasses everything, and that's the reminder. That's what we want to do, is to pause and think about how it applies to me today. Okay? Anyone else would like to comment on that or share an example, a scenario that they think they can apply this to?
Giving an example of personal situation whereby you're trying to achieve an objective or you have some certain problem. So in those situations, our day-to-day drive or at work or maybe in our lives, all those things we should be aware that Allah knows about it, and because He created us, He knows what we're capable of, what our limitations are. Exactly.
And you're not by yourself, you're not alone, right? Good. And continuing on, right, it's also saying, why should it not be the case? There should not be any surprise about it, because He's the one who has created you. أَلَا يَعْلَمُ مَنْ خَلَقَ, right? He's the one who has created you. And on top of that, two of His attributes that are mentioned is that one is He is subtle, al-latif, He's subtle, He's also very kind. So both of these meanings are in there. He's courteous, He's kind, right? So that's why I have these two translations up, so you get a variety of meaning. So he's subtle and He's also very kind. So know this thing about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I think this is really powerful, because sometimes we have this tendency of thinking that people are more merciful than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's not the case. Any mercy, any kindness that any human being may have towards you, Allah is way more, like 100 times more merciful than that, right? So as we know from the hadith that the whole world only has one out of 100 parts of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you were to divide the mercy of Allah in 100 parts, the whole world only has one part. So imagine there's no human being. So if you think a human being is kind to you, he cares about you more, just remember that Allah is like 100 times kinder to you at least. Okay? So that's really important, like to your mom or your spouse or your children, whoever it is, or your parents. If you think they are more kind to you, that's not true. And He's all aware, so that goes back to the previous meaning. On top of that, I think there's also a dawah angle here. And that's one of the things that, we have a lot of people discussing these days is like, okay, well, what's the benefit of this? Everyone wants to discuss as if they're able to understand the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, we should research it, we can communicate onto it. However, we will never be able to fully grasp the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So He has created us, He has created everything around us, so He knows what's good for us and what's good for the society. So the 5 daily prayers, for example, praying Jummah or the 5 daily prayers, it's not meant to make us less successful. It's not meant to make us unproductive members of the society. The financial system is not meant to make us less successful or less financially capable. All these things are meant for greater harmony, greater prosperity in the society. And this is from the knowledge and wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We may or may not be able to appreciate, right? Why is there a ruling about, marriage or divorce or, alcohol or interest or financial system and so on and so forth. However, it's all backed by the wisdom and knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the creator and He knows everything. Any comments on this? Mm-hmm. Good. Hey, Jazakumullah khairan for sharing that. Okay, moving on to verse number 15. هو الذي جعل لكم الأرض ذلولا فامشوا في مناكبها وكلوا من رزقه وإليه النشور. So from His kindness is what we see in this verse, that He is the one who has created and smoothed the earth for you. So He has facilitated our movement, our function on this earth, and it has been made subservient to us. So things are serving us, the earth, right? How we are able to walk onto it, how we are able to use it for agriculture, for our food, for our resources, so on and so forth. As well as everything that's also put on earth, like animals, vegetation, plantation, fruits, and so on and so forth. So eat from this, benefit from this. So this has all been created to serve us, to provide for us our physical needs and make it comfortable for us. That's from the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has set it up. Obviously, again, if you want to take it another angle to it, it also points to the existence of God, the existence of the Creator, that this is not random. Because when people and the scientists, they do research on that and they look at how things exist in proportion, and a balance has been created for them, and had things were to be shifted or tilted, the balance were to be tilted by nanometers, things would have been drastic. They would have been catastrophic. So this is also something that we learn and see from that not only is something that's for favorable, but it also points to the existence of the Creator. And as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that, He also shifts our focus towards that we have to return to Him. We will be resurrected. And if we were to use a worldly example, people may invest in you, right? So those companies or startups that raise funds, then they are accountable to the board of what are you doing. The non-profits, the charity organizations that are raising funds and donation, they're also accountable to the donors. What's the impact? What's the effort that they're making? How are they using their funds? If you are hired as an employee, then you're also accountable and you do different sorts of reporting, whether it be your weekly reports or monthly reports, quarterly reports, annual reviews, and so on and so forth. So yes, there's this flexibility. You have a free will. You can choose to obey Allah or you can choose to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We all have these choices. But what is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminding us here is that we will be returning back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So again, when we reflect on that, it reminds us of the care, the kindness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His power, His design, His magnificence, and for us to appreciate the bounties that we are having, not to just think that, oh, I had the money and I was able to buy it, or I had access to this supermarket or Uber Eats or, Instacart and what have you, and Amazon Prime, and I just got it, but to also reflect that Allah is the one who created it and who facilitated for me to have those bounties and those things in my life. And then how am I utilizing those bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help me in my akhirah and in my meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, verse number 16. أَأَمِنْتُمْ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاءِ أَنْ يَخْسِفَ بِكُمُ الْأَرْضَ فَإِذَا هِيَ تَمُورُ أَمْ أَمِنْتُمْ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاءِ أَنْ يُرْسِلَ عَلَيْكُمْ حَاصِبًا فَسَتَعْلَمُونَ كَيْفَ نَذِيرٌ وَلَقَدْ كَذَّبَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ فَكَيْفَ كَانَ نَكِيرٌ. So these two verses, 16 and 17, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us that yes, you have all these things that Allah has created for you. However, don't feel secure that Allah is not able to take them away from you or to cause them to function in a way that would destroy you, such as by either using the earth to swallow you via an earthquake, right? So this is something that we see that happening. When we see that in the news, when we see this happening in different places in the world, yes, we can talk about what human beings are doing. Yes, we should talk about the climate effect and how we are, affecting it from a physical perspective. But let's not just be focused on that physical components and things that we are able to measure. Let's not forget the one who is in charge of this all, the one who is actually allowing this to happen, and for these things to cause us to be afraid and to be conscious and to be aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, lest we be also captured in this punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or in this event from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether it be, as Allah says in verse number 16, from the earth shaking up and swallowing, or the thunderstorms or the storms of stones coming from the sky. So these are things that many people then categorize under natural disasters or Mother Nature and so on and so forth, to also then realize that this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this also reminds how weak we are, how humble, how weak we are, and how strong and powerful Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. And as a data point, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in verse number 18 to look at وَلَقَدْ كَذَّبَ الَّذِينَ مِن قَبْلِهِمْ فَكَيْفَ كَانَ نَكِيرٌ. And certainly those before them denied, as well, then how severe was my response. So we need to look at and reflect not only from the previous generation, but something that we may observe in our own lives as well, of different events that happen, such as earthquakes and thunderstorms, or even the whole COVID and the pandemic scenario, how it shows us that how weak we are and how powerful Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, and not to feel secure that Allah has given us what we have and we can continue disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and changing His religion, or challenging His religion, challenging His power, and so on and so forth. Okay, so any comments on any of these, and then we'll go on to the Quranic Arabic. I think we'll stop at verse number 18 from a reflection points. Anybody from the guys like to comment any of this? Security, punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, severity, and also learning lessons from the people of the past. that temporarily speaking, they may be successing, they may be successful, they may be flourishing. However, the punishment of Allah is near. So we'll stop here for this part. We'll do the Quranic Arabic next. There is tea there. If you want to grab it, please go help yourself, and then we'll move it to the brother's side so people can have it. So we'll take a 2-minute break to grab some tea and stuff, and then we'll switch on to the next one, inshallah.